So guys, Satu Dave. Chilling on a Sunday this time. Should be more normal. I think I've collected myself enough to kind of articulate my thoughts a little better now. So if you watched yesterday, and if you didn't, please go watch that video. I was gifted a Ununzan, which I still can't believe, but it turns now. So it's 45 Ununzan. This is born in July. So it was probably slightly used. My buddy Aaron said that normally you can't have the box flick them like that. So he thinks it's probably been opened and tweaked a little bit. So I don't know. Almost all my knives that I get are all used anyhow. So everybody's opinion differs, I guess, on that, and your results may vary. I don't know. Like I haven't handled enough CRKs to know what exactly they feel like coming out of the box. I just know after they're worn in, kind of sort of what they feel like. And the only really ones that I've had recent experience with were the 31 Tonto that Steve sent and this Ununzan. Actually, Aaron was going to send me an Incosi, I think, but it didn't work out yet, which is fine. You know, I'm not opposed to getting another CRK down the line, but I think ultimately, I think this was the one I was after first. Anyhow, was this Ununzan. So a couple quick thoughts about Ununzan, Sebenza. I've handled Incosis, but not really handled them. I've not had one in person where I could actually use it as my own kind of thing. You know, people have mentioned this glass breaker on this thing, which is part of the blade coming out the end of it. I don't know that I necessarily like that feature at all. That's just one observation. The other one, which I was kind of warned by buddy Chuck Nunface, is this nub that sticks up over here. When you look at this in pictures, it doesn't seem that big a deal. And even in holding it, like you can get your hands in there enough where you kind of lock in between the nub and I guess the natural finger choil of the handle there. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother me at all as far as uses. Now I haven't done a ton of stuff with this. I only owned it for like, I don't know, 12 hours or something, a little over 12 hours. So it's not like I had a lot of use on it, but as far as playing around with it, I can tell that it's a little bit more cumbersome disengaging a lot than the Sebenza was for me. That's just an observation. The grind itself feels about the same, just going from memory, as the 31 Tonto that I felt, like as far as like the depth of the hollow ground, maybe behind the edge and that sort of thing. Like, I mean, it's really super hard to tell. I watched someone's video that said they thought that the tip was thinner on these Ununzans than it was on the Sebenza, and I don't know if it is or it isn't, but it definitely seems like this grind at the edge here is definitely not as pronounced as the one on the Sebenza. So that would kind of sort of back up what that dude was saying. Like, I don't know that any of this to be fact. I thought in looking at that pocket clip how close it is to the edge there. Usually I don't like pocket clips close to the edge, but me, and it's a spring clip, and it's actually a pretty small knife. It kind of sits more around my knuckles, not really in my palm. When I grip it like that, I don't really feel it at all. Like, it doesn't bother me a bit. I've heard some people say they dislike the clips. I've not had any use problems out of it yet. Like, I've carried this in jeans while I went to the grocery store, and this morning where I carried it in my gym shorts, walking the dogs around the neighborhood here, and I could barely even tell I had a knife on. Like, I don't know, some of you guys probably think it's ridiculous, and I'll get into it in a second, but a 5-ounce knife for me is like nothing. Like, I barely tell I honestly barely can tell I have anything in my pocket, and that's just because I'm used to carrying heavy shit, right? So this is supposed to be Chris Reeves' harder use than the Sebenza kind of knife. I don't know if they call it, this is the hard use Sebenza, or if the Incosi is the hard use Sebenza. I've heard both. But I like it a lot so far, and let's just dabble on the hard use. So everybody's opinions of hard use is going to change. So admittedly, I'm on the other side of ridiculous, like when it comes down to it. So which one you think's more hard use, right? I mean, this DXK is what I bought myself for my birthday. So I think I showed this 3 weeks ago. There's a VXC. This is a bad motherfucker, by the way. I truly love this knife. This is so unique and so badass. And it's a completely different kind of badass and hard use than this is. Do I ever need more than this? Honestly, probably not. I probably don't. but I enjoy the fuck out of this. So that's just me as a whole. Like, it's pretty obvious which Chris Reeve I was going for first, you know, like the gentleman's suit kind of thing. I was supposed to go to a wedding yesterday. The wife got sick, so we didn't end up going, but a gentleman knife ain't me. That's just not my style, man. But do I like a little bit of class every now and then? Sure. I like the classy knife every now and then. I'm not a classy kind of guy. It's just, I'm a jeans and t-shirts kind of guy. It just is what it is, right? What was I going to talk about here? Okay, so I guess in the big scheme of things, like I've been collecting knives more or less since '09. When people talk about budget knives, I think I budget my budget realm, or I went through that whole budget phase way before Chinese knives were good. Like, Chinese knives sucked then, at least all the ones that I had handled. So, you know, I started like Smith & Wessons and, you know, all that. I won't say gas station knives, but the ones that just like one notch above. I guess a Smith & Wesson is a gas station knife at a certain point, but one step above the cheapest knives you can get. They were basically at a feed and seed gun store that we used to go to all the time where I lived in North Carolina. And I've quickly progressed from that budget level into like a Benchmade, Spyderco kind of level. I don't know, 6 months maybe, something like that. So I don't have a whole lot of time, especially with modern knives, in the budget realm. And even that, like, some people might consider a Spyderco or a Benchmade kind of sort of budget level, and it all depends on your income. And I'm not here to talk about people's incomes or my own. Obviously, I like higher end knives than that now, and I've kind of always avoided the CRKs for some reason, and I can't really put my finger on why. Because if you guys ever took a sawtooth apart, this sawtooth is basically huge Sebenza. Construction-wise, it has the bushing in it, it has the phosphor bronze washers in it, stop pins in the same location back here. A lot of this knife, a lot of the style of this knife, or function, should I say, of this knife, is directly linked to the Sebenza. Now, I don't even know who made the sawtooths. For anybody who asks, Grayman themselves never manufactured the sawtooths. They were all mid-techs. I've had a couple people ask me about that. Mike does not want to make any more sawtooths. He doesn't have any interest in folders at all. Last time I asked him, he basically said he makes fixed blades and he didn't really have any interest in folders at all. It's probably more because functional issues, return issues, dealing with public, a lot of things I'm sure behind the scenes that we're not privy to. But I'm going off a tangent already, I'm sorry. But I guess the link between his and the CRK never clicked inside the brain. Like, why? Because like this action, like the sawtooth action, you know, you could tell like I'm all about the sawtooths, right? Like, these things they just fit me good size. I love the operation. And these are basically a 12-year-old design. Like, they've been around, I'm pretty sure 2010, 2011, something like that. And I've had them pretty much shortly thereafter. I've been carrying them that long. I've always had a sawtooth for more than a decade now, or at least a decade, put it that way. It's definitely my go-to. So why I never linked it to the CRK, I don't know. So I'll pull up the one of each. So the Trilogy, everybody classically knows the Trilogy as the Strider, the CRK, and the Hinder, right? So for example today, because they're all the same blade shape, brought out a few of mine. And that's not the only ones I have, but I have multiple Hinders, but I brought the clips out today because it's in Tonto. And compared to the or the Zon, whatever people want to call them, it's pretty close to the same size. Pretty close to overall. So I mean, thickness wise, it's a little bit thicker on the Hinder, definitely thicker blade stock. You know, very similar overall knives, I guess I'd say. Not necessarily that the function and stuff is. I mean, to me, the Hinder is still definitely more of a, especially on this tri-way, it's definitely a lot more of a action style knife than this CRK is. For a fidget kind of thing, I've heard people say you can't really fidget with CRKs. To me, I like fidgeting with the CRK better than the Hinder already. It's something about the way the action is, the detent, I don't know. But we all like different things, right? Like, you know, the Hinder collector is all about Hinders. MC Metal Complex is all about the Hinders. I still like the old school Striders. This is the one before they started marking them, what blade steel it was, because it only came in one steel, and that was S30. This one has been reground, KG gun coated. It actually has a different scale. It comes stock with a Lego, and this chevron was of the next generation past this, but nowhere close to the newest generation. And I don't have a new generation anymore. So this is the closest thing I have to old school SMF. So just for all three together kind of thing, I just want to show them for just a second here and kind of talk about them. So obviously, like, they come in different sizes, but SMF, Zon, and Eclipse. We can just substitute this with the XM if you'd rather XM. We can go with the 18, that's fine. I don't care, whichever one you want to go with, it's fine. It really doesn't matter to me as far as the Trilogy goes, but all three still to this day have benefits or lineage from knives that have progressed from that, and they've progressed themselves to a certain degree, right? Like this Unizon, I guess the main lineage is probably more Sebenza than Unizon, but this Unizon locks up with a ceramic ball, and it's also the detent on the lock bar, so it's not actually titanium to metal contact, it's ceramic ball to the blade steel for the lockup, which honestly, until I got it, I mean, I've heard people say it, it never clicked in my brain, and I've seen the 31 was the same way. I can't tell the difference in operation, like, doesn't bother me one way or the other, but honestly, titanium to steel has never bothered me on like the SMF. That's just straight up titanium frame locking up to steel. Never had an issue with this one. I have had lock stick problems in the past and that sort of thing. And I guess the modern way of fixing it is a lock bar insert. Do I swear by a lock bar insert? No. It's more pieces, more stuff to fail, I guess, but at the same time, you don't have other issues. So is it correct to do it in geometry or correct to do it in more parts? Your call. But, from this knife, I think things progress bigger, like badder. And even in the Stratoline themselves, just to name a few, obviously it's made by Medford, but the 3/4 AR, like, you can lineage to AR itself, and there's liner locks, frame locks, ARs. Those are sick knives, man. Much beefier, much bigger. The J2, you can give it bigger, beefier. Have I had issues with this in the past? I have. I had to make a stop pin. So there are some quality issues with the brand of Strider itself, but what they've inspired is bigger, badder. To me, out of the three, the Strider seems to be the one that, even now that I'm in a huge big bruiser knife, if I was going to consider one of these three as just a main carry, it would be the SMF over the other ones. It's just the one that connects with me the most. I've had the most experience with the SMS. I've owned SMS for on and off for probably at least a decade. Hinderers. So I haven't had a lot of hinderers. Hinderers has kind of been the last couple of years kind of thing for me. And the Triway, I think, is what sold it to me. Like, I've never been a fan of the nylon washers. It just never, something about the feel of them, I don't know what it is. It just never clicked with me to make me want them. But, no denying that the hinderers are made as good as any knife is. Like, they're just good knives. Made, not this say design. So I know so many people are going with like the flipper tab. Like at the last AZ knife meetup we had, Eonins and Cue Ball were talking about, ZT versus hinder kind of thing. And if you're on the value side of things, obviously one costs cheaper, you're gonna go to the cheaper one, and how to justify that is up to you. If you've owned both and you prefer the ZT, you're different than I am. I'll just put it that way. I could see huge quality improvements to the Hinder over the ZT. We all judge knives differently, some based on just straight up the tool's ability to do the tool's work, like cutting. Like, they don't look at anything else, but hey man, we all judge knives our own way. You do your thing, right? For me personally, I think the Hinder is heads and shoulders above ZT. Always has been, always will be. I'll take an old Hinder over a brand new ZT any day of the week, regardless of heat treat, anything else. I just like the Hinders better, personally. So then we progress up until like the CRK. And the reason I say progress up is because it's clear to me as a machinist that these are machined to a tighter fit tolerance, whatever you want to call it. Like, I think I've gone over this before in the past, but you can't say a knife has good tolerances unless you've handled more than one. More than one is just a sample. As a machinist, like, you don't sample one, you sample hundreds of thousands or whatever you're doing. You sample X amount of to make sure you're holding the consistency of, unless you're a good operator and you do 100% of the checks you can every single time. And I imagine that with the CRK, that's exactly how they run. 100% of the checks, 100% of the time. This knife is definitely manufactured to a tighter tolerance fit, should I say, tighter fit than the other two the two brands that I've had experience with. I would say Hinder is second, and I'd say Strider is probably the worst. I've handled 3 generations of Striders. I've handled 2 or 3 generations of Hinders, and pretty much just the modern ZRK. So I have no idea what the classic ZRKs or the 21s or ones made, 10 years ago. I have no idea what those are about. So I can only comment on what I know. But it's kind of cool to me that you can see lineages of certain knives kind of move forward. And the fact that these 3 are still around, still doing their thing, is like, it's amazing to me that they still hold as much power in the industry as they do, and with merit. Like, you might only like one of them, you might like none of them, but almost guaranteed that one of the knives that you got was inspired by one of these knives. It's kind of like, well, let's just go with music. Metallica. If Metallica released their last album, would they be as famous as they are right now? But they're classics at this point, right? They've been around forever. Like, I started listening to Metallica in the 80s. Started seeing them in shows in the 80s. I don't think I've been to a show maybe since the early 90s of Metallica. They're huge, man. They're a completely different band than they were then, now. And so am I. I'm a completely different person now. I still like them. I don't really buy any albums anymore unless it's Spotify all the time. So, like, or whoever, streaming services. So, the world changes. Just these 3, I guess I'm still astonished that they're as good as they are even today. As far as it being gifted to me, it takes a lot more words to try to articulate this, but I don't necessarily, in thinking about it, I don't necessarily know that Steve sent this for my birthday, because I think this is a conversation we had after this is already en route. And Steve and I are kind of the same on this regard. It's like, we like other people to feel happy, and if it makes a gift or something like that, like, that's fine. Like, I've seen him where he gifted his guys, his workers, all nice and stuff like that. It's kind of like what makes us happy. We like to try to give to other people and make them happy, and I think we're the same in that regard. So, regardless if it was our birthdays, which is not currently, it just was in the past. I think he did this because he knew I wanted it, and honestly, it was the pinnacle of me doing my research into what CRK I wanted to do. I was really close to buying one, really close. So I started saying it yesterday. My buddy Aaron and my buddy JD for EDC both been sending me links like, hey, these are new over here. Oh, there's a used listing over here on Reddit. There's a used one over here on Blade Forums. They're both sending me links, which I totally appreciate. And I just never pulled the trigger. And it wasn't that I didn't get to it in time or didn't have the money. I don't know, for some reason I was just hung up just a little bit. I was like, I'm not quite sure really which one I want to pull the trigger on, because I kind of thought CRK would be a one and done for me. I can already tell you that's probably not going to be the case. I probably will end up getting more just to experience them. And kind of like my buddy Chuck Nunface does. He buys a lot of one brand, fine tunes what he likes, and then kind of sort of gets rid of the rest, buy, sell, trade, whatever he needs to do to get rid of the rest, and keep the ones that really are the peak for what he's interested in. I find myself, I don't want to say changing my tune, but finding more value in some of the details of knives more now than I have in the past. Like, for the longest time, all I wanted was bruisers. I didn't want anything else but bruisers. I mean, occasionally here, knife. Everybody's got a regular knife, right? But this just hit me at the right time, man. Like, this is exactly the knife that I wanted, exactly the knife that I needed, and Steve just hit it at the perfect opportunity, perfect time. And I freaking love this knife, dude. And I ain't even had it for not even a day yet. Already, like, still blown away mentally, which is really, really cool to me, because, like, I've done that for other people, and this is my first experience. Now, don't get me wrong, like, my buddy Chris gave me a knife last week, and it's not that I don't value his gift more than this knife. Like, regardless of monetary, neither one of these knives are ever leaving. Rodney gave me a knife a while back. That knife's never leaving. If someone gets me a knife, I'm keeping it. Like, it's the sentimental value of it. But this one just hit me at the right time, man, and it's just the perfect knife for me for right now. So, like, I'm not trying to put value on one person's gift versus another, even if it is monetarily. Like, it does, that really has nothing to do with it for me personally. But very humbled, very gratified. gratitude, I guess I should say, towards Steve and the whole of my community as a whole. Like, it's always been a good community for me. And like, you know, you either click or you don't click, right? For most of the communities you're in. Like, we use the motorcycle community for a minute. You guys have pretty much known me as mostly a, well, actually, maybe not, mostly a cruiser rider. And I have predominantly, since I've been starting riding in my 20s, well, even before that, and dirt bikes and stuff like that, I pretty much, even way back when, I always pretty much was a cruiser guy. Like, from the time I could ride on the street, put it that way, I've always been kind of more of a cruiser guy than other bikes. But I still liked other bikes. I still ridden other bikes and still own plenty of them, like MT-09, my Victory, well, the Victory's cruiser too, but I've had several other style motorcycles, so I don't want to be just blocked into the Harley crowd. And a lot of the Harley crowd just blocks in it. You can only just own the Harley crowd. It may be a thing of the past, but it definitely was something I had to live through in the community, kind of thing. Speaking of which, most of you Harley riders out there don't even carry American made knives. You're all like, American made, American made, American made, and then you pull out your knife and it's some Chinese crap. So we're all bigots to a certain degree, right? Even myself, like, you know, I preach American made knives, but I've had Japanese motorcycles. You know, it's just part of the ways of the world, I guess. I'm pretty much going rambling at this point. If you stuck this long, man, the main thing is I just want to send gratitude back to the whole community, but in particular in this particular case because of this amazing, blown away gift from Steve. And it hit me at the right time. It really did. And hopefully that unboxing you can see the emotions. Like, I know I hide my emotions a lot better than a lot of people, I guess, do or should. I don't know. It is what it is. I'm gonna quit rambling, dude. Hope y'all have a good rest of your weekend. If you see this in the weekend, if not, hope you have a good week. Catch you next Sunday. See y'all. All right, so I figured I'd throw this on the end. Probably ain't 100% of you gonna make it to the end, so it's a workout regardless either way. It's a Kaiser Chinese knife, if y'all didn't know. Pretty sure everybody knows Kaiser's made in China. I think this is a Ray Light exclusive. Don't quote me on it. I don't even know for sure, but I know it's a limited edition and it probably says what number it is. And probably has more information in the package, all the other stuff. It's a sheepdog and the thing's got the a removable flipper tab. I think through that little hole in there, which I don't know if you can or can't see, you can take the flipper tab off. The scales are kind of that, yeah, I guess you would call it frag, but it's just like, it's small checkers, I guess you would say, but it's a cool knife. Sim 154 CM, like I said, Ray Light exclusive or whatever else. It's my birthday giveaway to you guys. So all I want you to write is, let's see, what can we do for, again, how about, tell me which one of the three Trilogy, the CRK, the Hinder, or the Strider is your favorite. That's all you gotta tell me. Just say in and then tell me whatever one you wanna go. That's all I wanna do. And I'll give this away before next weekend. I'll probably do videos sometime in the middle of the week, figure out who won, all that kind of crap. So for the few people who make it here, free Kaiser, I'll mail it to you on Friday. Favorite of the three Trilogy, or just the one you like the look of. If you don't got no experience, the one you like the look of the best. How about that? Of the three Trilogy, and just tell me you're in. All right, see ya.